Hello. Hey, welcome, Sacred. Good evening, Frost. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Comes home with like at least 6 minimum. Be like, I thought you went out for a snack. I did. It's like, this is a snack. Yeah, it's a very light snack. You know, don't want her ruining her appetite for dinner. Of course, if it's Skylar we're talking about, he would immediately know whether or not it was gonna ruin her appetite. He'd be like, 6 buckets? Yeah, that's pretty low. True. He would just laugh. Yeah, like, that ain't happening. I could see that, like, what if her and one of her daughters were, like, entered into, like, a food contest, and you just see Marcy just snacking on a bunch of stuff before the contest starts, and her daughters are like, it's like, Mom, you're gonna ruin your chances, you're gonna ruin your appetite for the contest, and their dad is like, nah, this is nothing. It's like, your mom is fine. Nah, he would be like, that's the warm-up to the warm-up. Well, it depends on how much she eats, but yeah. It's either she's just warming up, or that's the warm-up to the warm-up. Although, to be fair, at a certain point, the girls would know whether or not they would be worried about their mom eating too much before a contest. Because, you know, growing up with her. So they probably wouldn't even be concerned from the start. Hello, hello, welcome. Maybe it'd be like their friends, be like, oh, isn't your mom eating too much before the contest? And they'll look at her, they'll look at Marcy and they'll be like, nah, she's fine. They were like, you should have saw her at breakfast. God, the way this song is structured, it makes me think of No More Heroes. Exactly. Or it's like, damn girls, why are you eating so fast? Like, we grew up with mom. If you didn't eat fast, you didn't eat. Like the Monica joke from Friends. I don't think that would ever be a situation with them though. Like, there's no way Marcy would let her girls starve or not have enough to eat. And no way Skylar would have them go without eating either. So they're fine. True. They're like, come on, we gotta get home. It's like, tonight's, I don't know, let's just say, tonight's lasagna night, and you know how much mom loves that. You're like, oh, fuck. You try to get home as quickly as possible. Their mom's sitting there waiting, trying to keep her composure as she sees the big mound that Skylar would make. And she's like glancing at the time, going like, So you're getting pissy. I know, lasagna sounds good right now, fuck. Or ravioli. Ravioli sounds good too. Okay, let's experiment a bit. I want to make sure Andy is getting proper shading. I can always change it. Well, that's nice. Yeah, my mom, during holidays, she'll take time to make, like, butter rolls or cookies. Sometimes for my brother's birthday, she'll make dirt. And then for me, she'll get cheesecake. But yeah, like, last Christmas, she made butter rolls. She made orange chicken and rice. Cooked like several different types of cookies. What else did she make? I think we had eggnog, of course, and then did she get another pumpkin pie, or did we only get the one for Thanksgiving? Yeah, it's one of those situations. She does layers and it's heavy as hell. Well, that's the fun part about lasagna, is because of the layers. I'm like, fuck yeah. Big old layers. That's why I like it. I was like, oh yes, give me that, those layers of pasta, or whatever the hell that part is made of. Now this is the part of the shading that's gonna piss me off the most, but that's okay. Fuck, I want waffles now too. I really, I like breakfast items the most. Like French toast and pancakes. I mean, granted, most of those are kind of in the same category to a degree, although French toast is very different compared to the other two. But Fuck, all that sounds good now. Maybe the next time I hang out with one of my friends, we'll go to a place that has that. I mean, I can always make it myself, but I like the occasion. It's been forever since... There was a long time ago when I was like... I think I was still in high school when I did this. I made waffles for me and my brother, and I have no idea what the hell I did, but they were so fucking good and buttery, along with the syrup, that they were just delicious. And for some reason, despite me doing exactly what I did before, I could not get that same feeling ever again. I could not get the same taste or flavor ever again. It was a one-time thing. Oh yeah, cream-filled French toast is really good. I've had that a few times. I need to make that a thing with Skylar, where he makes like stupidly good waffles, and then for some reason he can't do it again. And like Marcy will always judge every time he makes waffles, and it'll just be like, it's like, these are good, but they're not as good as the first time. He's like, fuck, what did I do differently? He'll just like fucking lose his shit. I should totally make that a thing for him. Oh, you want to see those in cream filled? Sorry, I misread that. I thought you were talking about cream filled French toast. Because that is a thing. And it is delicious. That's why I like Denny's. Because you can go there at like 2 in the morning. Just get yourself some pancakes or whatever else they were fucking selling. And then you're good. Me and Nana would do that. Like, we'd be hanging out, and then it'd be like 3 a.m. and she'd be like, I want some pancakes. I was like, okay, let's go to fucking Denny's. And we just go down the street, and there it is. As much as I would want to, no, I'm not adding any more. The ones we have are the ones we're sticking with. I mean, originally there was only supposed to be like 6 or... God fucking damn. I'm not saying it. There was only supposed to be about roughly 7. I'm not saying both numbers consistently. You're in sequence. I'm not doing that. Fuck that. That meme needs to die, and the fact that it's taking rent in my mind is a problem. Yes, I have. I'm still trying to exercise and all that, though, because I want to make sure I'm good for cosplays. So, trying to be more on top of that this year. I mean, I've never had a problem putting on my cosplays, but I just want to ensure that it's not a problem. That's cool. Had pizza like last week, I think. I had the pretzel pizza, and I think I had the stuffed pretzel pizza, and it wasn't bad, but it just doesn't beat the crazy stuffed crust pizza one. So I think the next time I get pizza, I'm getting that again. Nothing wrong with plus size cosplay. I know, but I'm more in the mindset of Well, most of my cosplays are usually made up stuff anyway, so it's not like I'm cosplaying as another character or as an existing character from like something popular or anything like that. But it's just a mentality where it's like, you know, unless I feel I can cosplay it at least to the best of my ability, I'd prefer not to do it if I don't look right. But I'm trying to be on top of that. Plus, I would like to commission a particular cosplay, but I'd have to wait on that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it this year. Plus, I still have to design it. And then I'd have to figure out how much that would be. And I think the hard part, though, is just making sure I get my measurements. Which, honestly, I could probably just go to, like, the mall and go to, like, I don't know, Victoria's Secret or some shit, some, you know, clothing store and get my measurements done. I don't know if they do it at, like, God, I don't even know what stores exist right now because I haven't gone to the fucking mall in, like, years. Or if I do go, it's, like, one section and it's like, not even, like, a place that I shop at, really, because I'm hanging out with somebody. And then every time I go to, like, the Barnes & Nobles, they'll be like, oh, do you have a card or something like that? Or do you have membership? And I'm like, no, I literally don't go to the mall anymore. I go to the mall, like, once every, like, 3 years. Maybe longer. I remember for a while I only went to the mall once a year, and that was during Christmas time. And that was just to find specific books or something for like, a friend or something, or whoever I was buying books for. And they would always try to get me to get a membership, and I'm like, I literally only show up here once a year. There's no point. But now it's been, like, years. And I think the last time I went, other than, like, recently, and that was just for, like, for my friend's daughter to go to this kind of play area thing. I think before that, the last time I went to the mall, or no, not the mall, but like Barnes and Nobles to get anything, it was like Calico Critters, and that was it. It wasn't even to get a book or anything. What was the last book I bought from a Barnes? Was it Tenjo Tenge? I want to say it was Tenjo Tenge. That was probably the last book I bought. I can't remember. It's been a long ass time. Oh yeah, for me, there's just no point getting it. Like I think I had a membership to Barnes like a long time ago, but I think I only got it like the one time, because after I got it the one time, you just quickly realize how often you even go, and there's just no point doing it again. And I'm just like, look, whatever bonuses or discounts that I could have gotten, it's irrelevant to how often I actually go. And then usually if I do go to like the mall or any store, I already have like a concrete plan of what I'm there for. So it's in and out, and then I'm done. Like, I don't plan on breaking, or like, you know, going outside of the plan. Unless something like really gets my attention while I'm out and about. Like, recently one of my friends and I were hanging out and we decided to get Wendy's. And Wendy's has a brownie batter Frosty, and it was actually really good. My only criticism of it really is that I wish they would fill it up with more brownie batter. Like, just make the entire thing brownie batter mix, rather than just like it being swirled with vanilla. Just make the majority of it brownie batter. and it'd be pretty much perfect. Or make it into a fucking shake with brownie. You know what? At that point, I might as well just go to fucking Baskin Robbins, assuming they had a brownie-related drink. And if they don't have it, then there's always Cold Stone. But the Cold Stone where I live is a bit of a drive to get to. Like, to get to Cold Stone where I live is gonna be like at least 20 minutes. If I got the hungies. And I don't really get hungry necessarily, it's more about taste for me. Like, I just want a particular taste of something. They'd be like, damn, orange dreamsicle sounds really good, or I don't know, cheesecake or something like that. It's not like, oh man, I'm hungry, I need to go eat something. It's like, you know what, I want cream soda or Nutter Butters. Like, it's just a particular thing. I know, right? I used to have a Cold Stone that was like super close to my house, or well, maybe not super close, but definitely closer than the one I have now. And that one left, and then Dairy Queen left, and then now we got a new Dairy Queen, but that one's a little bit of a drive to get to. And I've only been to that one once, and I've been to the new Cold Stone twice. So yeah, like, those two are like literally out of my way to get to. So unless I'm hanging out with a friend and I convince them to go, I'm most likely not going. I do have Baskin Robbins though, and they're not bad. They are a good third place. Ooh, Arby's sound good too. There was one close to my house, and then I think that one got closed down, and now there's only the one that I'm aware of that's like a little bit further down. But Arby's is usually good. It's been a while since I've been to one though. I probably don't need that on his eyes, but let's just see how this works before I change it. Yeah, I could probably ignore his eyes on that layer. Yeah, that way you can see his eyes a little bit better. Milkshakes from Sheets. I have no idea if I've ever gone to a Sheets. If I have, it was probably one time that I have no memory of going. When I was little, we had a place called Frosty's, and that place was great. There used to be one where I live now, but then that closed down like ages ago now. Like at least a decade ago. Or over a decade, now that I think about it. Great, now I'm curious about something. Just want to know what this comes with. I'm not planning on going anywhere, but I want to see what's in it. God damn it. Sure, I just want to know what's in this. Thank you, fuck. Did I not just... Okay, what is in this? That's all I want to know. This is not answering my question. Okay, fine, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I was trying to find something specific. Whatever. It is 9:30 for me. And honestly, there are places that are open, even if it wasn't like somewhere specific, but I'm not going anywhere tonight. I should probably light his palms a bit. Nothing crazy. Yep, he is a dog. Yeah, if there are people that do that, you just gotta just ignore them and just cut contact because stuff like that can get out of hand, especially if you're not into it. And the last thing you want to do is do something you're not into, not have enough knowledge about it, and possibly injure yourself. Or have it be used against you in the future. So, just better if you're not into it and you already are aware of the ups and downs about it, then you make that decision. But don't let anybody force you to or pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. Yeah, exactly. It is very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, like if you feel like it, do a strike system. Like if you're friends with them, then do a strike system. If they're not your friend, then you can just drop them right now. But if there's somebody that you know personally, just tell them no, tell them why you don't want to, whatever your reasons are. Even if honestly, even if you didn't have a reason, just because you said no should be enough. But but yeah, if they keep trying to pester you into it, then give them like a final warning. It's like, look, if you don't drop this, then we're done. And then see what happens. Oh yes, there are definitely a lot of risks to stuff like that. But that's why we have art to scratch that itch. It is 1,000 times more safe than anything you could do in real life. Which is also why people should not confuse fantasy with real life. And yet here we are. Exactly. That's why it's so annoying when, regardless of what the theme is, people will relate artwork as to wanting to do the same thing in real life. And it's just like, no. And sure, there's always going to be at least one person in the world that wants to do something that's bad. Like you can't ignore that fact, and that applies to literally everything. But people need to stop assuming that just because somebody makes a particular art form or shows interest in something that's fantasy or fake or fiction in any form, that doesn't mean that they want to perform those things in real life. And then depending on what those things are in real life, that still doesn't mean anything. It's like, okay, yeah, I like this picture, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't know. I think, well, society just gets dumber every year, so I don't know anymore. I think just people have nothing better to do. And they try to ruin things for everybody else. Even if it's perfectly fine. I mean, look at furries. People try to make furries seem like all they do is just wear costumes and fuck, and that's it. It's like, really? That is what you got from this. Well, again, you already answered your question. You put fictional. And sure, there's that guy that married Hatsune Miku, which I don't even know how that works. Or if it even counts, because he has his version of Hatsune Miku, but what about Brazilian Hatsune Miku? What about Mecha Hatsune Miku? Are those separate characters, or are they the same Hatsune Miku? See, you gotta think about that stuff if you decide to go down that rabbit hole. And if Hatsune Miku can be married, can Blaze the Cat be married? Like, you gotta think about shit like that. I mean, honestly, if it makes the guy be a better person, and he just because he married his take or his version of Hatsune Miku, then more power to him. Like, there's also that one guy who wanted to basically be Trunks from Dragon Ball Z in real life, and he actually made his life better for doing so. Like, he started eating properly, he works out all the time, he cosplays as Trunks, and guy looks great. So I don't see what the problem is. He's not hurting anybody, he's just being his peak version of Trunks. I mean, Anthro Mangle is basically just Funtime Foxy. It doesn't really separate the two that much. Sure, they'll probably put the second head thing or whatever broken parts of Mangle to make it look like Mangle, but to me, is just, well, you might as well just have Funtime Foxy. They're essentially the same character. One's broken and one isn't. And yes, I know there's actual differences between the two, like they're not the same exact model, but I'm just talking like in terms of appearance and the closeness of their designs. Because one's face opens and the other one's doesn't, so obviously there's a distinct difference between the two. But that's just my thoughts of the character design. I'd prefer to just keep them as they are in terms of their forms, so that way they're more unique in that fashion. It can't technically be the same character because they both function completely differently and they don't even have the same head. So they can't be the same character. Plus, one literally comes like 30 years after the other. Actually, it might even be longer than that if we're trying to keep timelines intact. But yeah, they literally can't be the same model. But it just makes less sense to make Mangle into an Anthro version. But if somebody wants to make an Anthro version of Mangle, go for it. I ain't stopping you. I made a version of Chica that gains weight, and that was ignoring the fact that already 8 Chica exists. I just said, nah, fuck it. It's like, I don't care. Like, unless Scott Cawthon himself came to me specifically and asked me not to draw that or remove my drawing of that character in that form, then I have zero reason to listen to anybody else. She's not overrated. She's pretty standard, honestly. Chica's just fun. Well, if it gets that bad, the best thing you could do is do it yourself. Draw the artwork yourself. That's how the saying goes, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Because she looks more human? No. Okay, I like Chica from FNAF 1 because at first I thought Chica was a duck because of the bill. Then once I found out it was a chicken, didn't exactly change my opinion of the character. And then they made Toy Chica, and Toy Chica is just dummy thick. And then it just kept progressing and getting better with every design. And then you essentially just treat every design as a separate character, and then you just have more characters. And the same stuff happens with all the other characters. Like, I like the entirety of pretty much most of the FNAF characters, minus certain ones that are just dumb. That I'm just like, why? Why does this character exist type of thing? But that's my opinion. If somebody likes those characters, that is perfectly fine. But aside from that, you know, just have fun with it. I just like Chica because I like her design. Everything else after that is just a bonus to me. It's like, look, you had me a duck, and she wasn't even a duck. I think the irony is that I picked Chica without any context to what kind of character she was, because we didn't have any of that in the first game. And then it wasn't until after that that she was completely associated with just like stuffing her face and stuff like that and being a glutton. Like all of that information came after the fact, and I'll say in the first game the closest we had to her like being a bit of an eater was the bib that says "Let's eat." That's it. That's the extent of what we knew of the character, but we didn't even know how far that went, because that could have just been like any typical like pizza-based character where she just has that, and then she brings you pizza or something, and that's it. Like she could have been the cook for all we knew. And then it wasn't until like later information where it's like, oh well, fuck. I guess I'm not getting out of the like, oh, into weight gain nonsense. It's like, nope, there it is. And then when we got already 8 Chica in the Freddy in Space game, that just further capitalized on that thought. It's like, man, they are really paying attention to what the fans like about Chica. There's like I don't think there's a bad version of Chica unless you count some of the FNAF AR designs. The best part of Mango, you can put it back together. Put them back together, but yeah. They like to mess with you on whether or not Mango's a boy or a girl. It's really funny. Well, yeah, like, it was supposed to be a take apart, put it back to... Well, no. I think originally, if I remember correctly, in the second game, they said originally it got banged up so much by the kids that they turned it into a put it together and take it apart thing. It was not originally supposed to be that. And so then they just toss like a bunch of random parts for the kids to play with, and then they turned it into a fucking monstrosity. But that was the fun part about Mangle. But yeah, in FNAF 2, Mangle was really fun. Like, I like the whole disturbing look that Mangle has. Especially once it gets into your office and just starts making noise and hanging and staring at you for a good period of time before it kills you. It's like, nope, don't want any of that. I have no real opinions over that. Like, I've seen artwork of it, and I'm just like, eh. It boils down to context and whether or not the artwork is good or not to me. Because I've seen some artwork that are good, and then some that are just like, nah, you didn't even try. There was nothing to decipher, because back when that game came out, I wish I had saved this, but I found where the audio came from, or where the radio dialogue came from, and it's basically from a radio pack of sounds and stuff like that, and all it is just some trucker noises. It's just random trucker distorted conversation. That's all it was. I found that a long time, but like, I think it was like the same year that game came out. I wish I had saved it, but it was back when I wasn't saving stuff like that. But yeah, I found that a long ass time ago. And there was nothing to decipher, so it was just kind of funny that people were trying to figure out what Mangle was saying. It was like, they're not saying anything, it's just a random conversation that's all distorted. Just looked up already a Chica because I didn't know what that was from, and now I'm surprised to see that not only is there a fat fetish Chica in the official. Yeah, exactly. That's the fun part about it. Like, already a Chica is just a giant nod to like, yes, we know what you're into. And I laughed like hell when I came across that boss. I was like, fuck yes. And it's funny because not a lot of people know that already IHHAT exists after a certain point, because not too many people played that game. Or if they do know about it, they only saw streamers playing it. Well, yeah, new artwork gets made pretty much all the time. Like, that's just a given. I mean, it doesn't matter because the game is just non-canon. It was for a fundraiser, and they just threw in a bunch of random art design characters for fun. Like, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's just Chica being a fat ass. That's all it is. Because if we're trying to figure that out, then we have to figure out the bosses that are based off of streamers. Or if you really don't know who the character is, then that's just something you'll have to look up. Yes, he works at a hot dog place. Five Nights in Anime. I mean, they essentially did that with Ultimate Custom Night. I mean, you could have a Five Nights at Freddy's TV show and it would probably work really well, depending on how tightly Scott keeps things, so that way they don't go too far off script. Like, I'm sure it would work well. The only thing you'd have to think about really is to decide what's canon, what isn't, if it's even going to be based off of the games in terms of canon. Like, okay, is this like following the games? Is this an extension of the games? Is it going to be its own continuity type of thing? Will it help clarify a few things? Maybe it will show who was the first to die, or who got experimented on, blah blah blah. You know, it'd be that kind of thing. And then the only thing you'd really have to worry about is how you're going to choose to animate it. Like, are you going to do 3D? Are you going to do 2D? A mix of the two? Are you going to try to do it in real life, or in live action, which personally I don't think you should do that if you're making a TV show. It should just be 2D, personally. Or if you're really good at 3D, like the filmmakers shorts that fans have made on YouTube. If you can do it like that and make it coherent, then yeah, go for that. But yeah, it just boils down to how serious it's taken. Stop motion, no. I don't think stop motion would help, or would be useful. If we're talking about in the style of like Spider-Verse, then maybe, but I don't think that would help it, honestly. And then it also boils down to how scary it would actually be, which is the nail in the coffin scenario. Because if you're trying to get younger audience into it, which is already confusing for Five Nights at Freddy's as it is, because Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't made for younger audiences, but they sell toys and stuff like that, and you know, kids got into watching streamers playing the games and stuff like that, so that's the head scratcher part. And then how scary do you want it to be? How toned down is it going to be? Like that's the only downside to trying to make the series open to a wider audience, is that you push out the core audience, because the core audience will know exactly what gets changed, what gets toned down and retconned and stuff like that. So it's better to cater to the fans rather than trying to get a wider audience, because the audience will come if it's popular enough. Your fans will get pissed and probably leave, and then it'll go downhill because then there's less people hyping it up and stuff like that. Especially if it changes too much and stuff like that, or isn't what you want it to be. That's why the second movie for FNAF has the problem of being too open-ended, because it can't be the way the second movie is. It cannot be treated as a standalone movie because it leaves too many things open. The way that movie was structured. And then there are just certain elements of it that I'm just kind of like, we could have gone through this without that type of situation. But other than that, I thought the movie was fine. But the first movie was definitely better. And even then, I had some minor gripes about the first movie, but overall, it's not bad for being the movie universe. But obviously, the games are going to be superior in terms of which is better type of thing. And then to me, I still think FNAF 1 is the best one of the games, because I like the mystery behind it, and I like how it was just focused on ghosts. But yeah, it all boils down to how it's handled when it comes to like trying to make a TV show or something. I think we're good. Let me fix this since I'm here. Like, Lord help me if IHAT ever became a cartoon show. They'd be like, alright, how many episodes do we have? And they give me a number or whatever, and I'm like, alright, this is gonna be a bitch to figure out what to cut. Well, actually, it wouldn't be too hard to figure out what to cut, honestly. But as long as I kept, like, the key stuff, then we should be fine. If it ever became a show. Don't think about the ghost part. The ghost part was the best part. Once they started going into the whole science bullshit, then it started just losing its effect. Because like everything was starting to be explained. It's like, oh, this is because of this kind of experiment, blah blah blah, or this is being controlled by this AI. And I'm just like, guys, remember when it was just about fucking ghosts? The ghost was the easy part. Or it's like, now we have cyborgs or robot clones, whatever the fuck is considered canon from the books or whatever. Or it's like, oh, because this robot killed this person, that means that their soul goes into the robot because of this special metal, or because of agony. And I'm just like, guys, what are we doing? Just keep it ghosts. It was that simple. You don't need to explain it. The first game literally did your job. But yeah, the ghost was actually the better part of the story. Well, that's the thing. Well, one, they don't even say the first 4 games. They just say the initial 7, so all the way up to Ultimate Custom Night. In terms of FNAF VR, they say aren't canon, but they don't tell you what isn't canon, because they just said some of it is exaggerated, but they don't tell you exactly why, or what is. And the reason why they don't tell you that is they don't want to contradict themselves on what is canon and what is not. Which Security Breach kind of fumbles the bag on that, because the blob exists. So if you were trying to be all technical, it's like, well, if you're trying to be technical with that, Security Breach kind of fucks over your statement immediately. And then in terms of Freddy makes no goddamn sense on why he didn't get corrupted compared to the others. Because it looked like he just goes into a system shutdown before it happens, but then it doesn't explain why the other 3 didn't have the same function. I think it's tied to time, but I'd have to look again because it's been a while. But even so, it's like, well, here are stuff to explain things, and here are things to not explain things, and unfortunately Security Breach fumbles it hard in terms of explanations. Because they don't explain why Vanessa's after Gregory, they don't explain why Gregory's there to begin with, they don't explain how the other animatronics suddenly start trying to find and attack you, because before that even happens, you see all of them in their rooms being completely fine, and then suddenly they're just chasing you for 0 reason. Yeah. I also know that there's also a function that got removed where you're supposed to see hallucinations of Burn Trap show up randomly in certain areas. And he's supposed to be like really far away, and it's supposed to be staring at you. But then I also know that Burn Trap wasn't originally supposed to be in the game. But then they did put him in the game, but then all the stuff that they showed off about him got cut from the game. As well as multiple dialogues and all that. Freddy was supposed to become evil and try to kill you. That got cut and changed. There's just so much stuff that... Some stuff that was really good ideas got cut from the game, while other stuff that was bad ideas got added to the game. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that got cut and all that. That's just that whole game, man. It would be very interesting to see somebody take what the game was going to be and just mod it to become that game. So like remove all the stuff that doesn't need to be there, or if they're capable of re-adding it and make it function, then that'd be cool, which I've seen a few. Like I've seen the mod that re-applies all the areas as completely open the way it was supposed to be. And like the shortcuts that were removed from the game. And then the extras and all that, the Vanny meter. Yeah, even if Vanessa and Vanny were either 2 different people or the same person, Vanny just got the short end of the stick heavily, because they built her up so much in FNAF VR and AR, and then they just fumbled it hard with that character. And they like tried to save faces, like, oh, you know, we set her free from playing the mini games and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't even feel anything from doing that, because they did such a horrible job with that character's story that air quotes saving her doesn't even feel like an accomplishment, because there was like nothing to save her from, because we didn't get to see her do anything. And it's kind of funny because so many people like built up such like a large connection with Vanessa, and I'm just like, I don't know how you guys are connected this hard. We didn't see her do anything. She didn't get to do anything. Like the closest we have to any feeling of the character is through the therapy tapes, and that's kind of it. It just like very lost. Well, and then of course, you know how she's portrayed in AR or VR. But outside of those 2 things, like it's like, man, we really didn't get to see this character shine. But yeah, like Vanny and Vanessa being the same person was always going to be a thing because that's how their statue and toys or whatever was hinting at. So that part wasn't surprising. It was just, unfortunately, we didn't get to see them properly execute what she was gonna do, and a lot of it fell into the whole, like, because they had so much of the mall to work on and stuff like that they just kind of squandered their time. Because they said originally the mall was only going to be 2 stories tall, but then they got like a model that had like it 3 stories and like a basement and stuff like that, and they didn't want to cut it. They just wanted to use everything, and I'm just like, guys, no, you fell into that trap. And I think another part of the problem is that the people working on that game had never worked on anything like that before, and it was very telling. But that's why that's why Ruined was so much better, because they kept it like very linear and focused instead of just letting you go everywhere. So it was that was like a clear showing of what they're capable of. And it just sucks that Security Breach didn't get that treatment. I'm sure there's like some mod that somebody could do where you just make Security Breach like ultra linear. But the problem is there's still like so many things missing. Yeah, the FNAF room wasn't supposed to be there either. That was just something random that Scott had thrown in, and they had to like figure out where to put it. And that's like the other problem with Security Breach was communication problems. Because Scott thought that, you know, the stuff that he was trying to be secret about, he figured that the creators of the game would like understand and know what he was talking about. And that wasn't the case. They had no clue what any of the stuff that he was hinting at meant, or why they were put in the spots that they were put in. So they had no clue what he was trying to figure out. Yeah, sister location. But yeah, it was just a giant storm of bad decisions. But yeah, I would love to see somebody do like a remake of Security Breach and make it properly. Secret of the Mimic. Personally, I think the whole Mimic idea is just bad in general, because then it's like, oh, it was so-and-so, and then you find out it was the Mimic. Or what, because a lot of it doesn't make any sense either, because if the Mimic timeline is supposed to be the beginning of everything, then what the fuck was the Mimic doing for years before it got sealed underneath the Pizzaplex? And then there's just a lot of inconsistencies with the Mimic itself. Like the game, I think the game was fine in terms of like explaining how Five Nights have Freddy's and you know, Afton and fuck, what's his name? Oh my god, I'm blanking out on his name. It was Afton and his partner. I forget his name for some reason. I'm blanking out on his name. But it was interesting of explaining how those two were like backstabbing Edmund, or is it Edmund or Edward, whatever, the creator of the Mimic. It was interesting seeing how those two backstabbed him by overwhelming his company to the point where everything went out of business and the company fell apart and stuff like that. Like all of that was very interesting. I just think the Mimic itself, Henry, yes. I just think that the Mimic itself is a bad idea in terms of keeping it around. Like, it would have been interesting if it was like an enemy that you eventually have get destroy, and then have the two companies salvage it and try to learn from it, and that's how they make the other animatronics down the line. Like, sure, that makes sense. Or, you know, whatever Edwin had for his company and stuff. But having the Mimic run around as a constant, character, it just ruins a lot of thought, a lot of character developments and stuff like that. Because at any point you would think like, oh, this person is the reason why the kids died, and then it's like, oh no, you find out it was the Mimic. Like, if they say at some point that William Afton actually didn't kill the kids, it was actually the Mimic or some shit, then that's just horrible writing. Because assuming Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is still air quotes canon or not, or whatever you want to call it at this point. Because remember, they said that they found the person on the tapes who did it, or they caught the person who did it, but because of the lack of evidence, they let him go. So, assuming that is correct, that means William Afton did get caught, but they couldn't prove it. And then you have to go into the whole, like, oh, maybe Henry did find Afton when he got spring traps and then left him in the room and had him all sealed, blah, blah, blah. But there's just so much open stuff now that we don't know who did what if the Mimic exists. And then it can always be a cop-out where it's like, oh, okay, it was the Mimic the whole time. Did you know that Capcom officially Street Fighter swimsuit magazines? Yeah, I already knew about that. I think I have some of them saved. But yeah, that's my only problem with the Mimic, is that the Mimic feels more like a scapegoat character rather than rather than a character that's actually interesting. And then they never really explain why the Mimic gives a shit about trying to kill you, or any of the other people sent to the factory. Because if all the Mimic needed was for all the passcode stuff, then it should have just left the other people alone, let them get all the authorization codes and blah blah blah, and then kill you then. Like, none of that made sense. Because the worst thing it could do is, like, wait longer. So, I don't know why it didn't think to do that. And then the Mimic just taking the time to go and pose as other characters also doesn't make much sense, because it's like, why doesn't he just come to you and kill you? Why is he taking the time to dress up in costumes and then hide? Especially if it knows exactly where you are all the time. But then again, that part could be dumbed down to gameplay. But then there's just like other aspects of the game that don't make sense. Like, certain characters are chasing you, and it's hard to tell if it's because it's the Mimic or if there's just like its own technical problems that they don't exactly show very clearly. Like the nurse. Like, you get chased by her, which at some point you know is the Mimic, because when they show her with a bunch of lava on her, they show the Mimic crawl out of her afterwards. But then it's like, wait. So you're telling me that the Mimic is this fucking well constructed that it can go inside of another animatronic that's full of, you know, broken parts at this point because it tore her off her rails and stuff like that, got inside her, controlled the body, fell into a molten vat of metal or whatever the hell they used it for, survived that, and then still got out? I was like, well, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, if it could do all that, then Jesus. And then it also makes you question, wait, if the Mimic was trapped in security breach, or ruined, whatever you want to call it, why didn't it just claw itself out? Like, apparently it had been down there for years, or however long it was down there. It could have easily just broken out by clawing through another entry or something. Like, there would have had to have been absolutely no way for that thing to get out. And they don't really do a good job explaining that. And again, like, the Mimic is just a very, very poorly made character. Which is why I really wish they didn't take so much inspiration from the books. Because originally the books were not supposed to be connected to the games. But then they slowly became connected to the games, and it was like, well, I guess we can semi-use this to figure out who's showing up in the games now. And clearly everybody called the Mimic, like, immediately when Ruin came out. Or even before it came out, like, the teaser was like, oh look, it's two eyes, it's the Mimic. And I'm like, Jesus fuck. But yeah, to me the Mimic is like one of the worst characters made. Just because it feels more like a Deus Ex Machina character. Alright, have a good night. Take care. Yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff in the books. Which is why it's like, some of it is canon, some of it is just outlandish nonsense. Just like random stories for the sake of it. Like the whole being pregnant with Springtrap thing, or William Afton thing was just like, why? And granted, I have already seen crazier stories than that over the years, just by being on furry internet, so it's not like any of that stuff really surprised me. It's just more surprising that it was used for FNAF. Like, officially as a actual book or something, rather than some random fanfic that I would find on the internet. If it was like a random fanfic I found on the internet, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's it, that's weird, but whatever. But because it's official, I'm just like, why was this used? Like, I'm more head scratching at it being official rather than if somebody made it up online. No, pregnant with Springtrap. It was a guy who randomly gets pregnant with a Springtrap animatronic / William Afton thing. That is a thing. I am not making that up. It's in one of the books. Why it is there, I do not know. And even Scott Gotham was like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck we were thinking with that one. But it is what it is. I'm like, yeah, you'll get some weird ass stories. I wish the Mimic was one of them. But like I said, other than that, I thought the Mimic game was great. Like, I like the idea of the of seeing how the animatronics were, as a concept, were being created and all that. I just wish that instead of the Mimic being like your main antagonist, that it could have just been like a malfunctioning animatronic that you actually destroy within the same story, like within the same game, and it doesn't become like a more prominent character or something like that. It should have just been like a one and done character, and then that would have been it. Like, they could have gone like almost the, I don't know if this is like makes much sense, but I would have said that I would say that they should have went the Kingdom Hearts route, sort of, where they should have like, where FNAF games should have like a secret boss, and the secret boss hints at the next game, and it's supposed to be like non-canon, and then that's how you introduce it as a concept. Although Kingdom Hearts uses their secret bosses weirdly, because some of them are canon while others aren't. Or at least they don't make sense, because none of the characters acknowledge that they fought the secret version. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to shrug at what works and what doesn't. But But yeah. I would say it'd be smarter to make non-canon secret characters to hint at the next game. And then, you know, have them die or be destroyed or whatever canonically. So if they had done that with the Mimic, I think I would like the Mimic a lot more. But now I just view it as a scapegoat character. At least for now, like who knows, maybe in the next game the Mimic gets destroyed rather quickly and isn't like constantly showing up or anything like that. So I guess it just boils down to what happens in the next game. So might have to reserve my thoughts until that happens, until the next game comes out, and then I'll have a better opinion of the character. Yeah, I kind of wish they didn't have Scrap Trap talk, because he didn't before, and it's just kind of weird that he does now. Especially when they have Elizabeth do all the talking in Pizzeria Simulator. Like, she does all the talking, and I'm like, we literally have William Afton right there. Why isn't he having a dialogue with Henry? Just kind of feels like an afterthought. But I don't know. That was something Scott wanted to do back then. So maybe there was like a bigger thing to be planned, and it just didn't work out that way. I don't know the joke, sorry. But yeah, anyway, overall I still like the series. Sometimes I feel it needs a little work here and there, but overall I still like it. But to me, the first game is still the peak one. After that, it would be it would be literally in the same order: 1, 2, 3. 4 was a little bit out there, but still good. But Sister Location was when everything started going downhill by introducing the whole science part of it. And trying to make it more than it needed to be. Let's see, 70 or 50. I think the 50 should be fine. Alright, take care. I'm gonna be stopping soon. Thank you. I know I rambled a good chunk of it. The first Music Man was fine. It's the giant one from Security Breach that I question, because it just makes zero sense. It's like, why? Like, none of that at all makes any sense. I think the problem with a lot of modern FNAF, because I'll say up to VR, FNAF in general is good. Sure, I'll have my gripes about some of the sciencey parts about it, but I think up until VR, it was still like good. But once AR and Security Breach, AR is kind of like whatever. I don't think it's entirely a bad game. It's just whatever. But Security Breach is where a lot of it drops the ball, because they throw in a bunch of things into that game that just doesn't make sense to have, or there's like a lot of stuff that just doesn't get explained at all, and either you have to guess why certain stuff happens the way they happen, or you have to have read some of the books to kind of have a idea of what could have happened, because again, the books aren't entirely done one-to-one with the games either, and you got to remember that in the beginning the books were not supposed to be tied to the games. So once Sinister Location came out, that's when people started paying attention to the books more, because that's when certain characters were being discussed. It was either Sister Location or it was FNAF World. But anyway, with Security Breach though, they don't explain why any of the animatronics start coming after you. We can only assume that it was because of an AI problem that it happens, because of the animatronics slowly acting more and more human for some reason. We don't have an explanation of the blob, really. Other than, oh, here's the remnants of the kids melted together, and now they're this big goopy thing that stole pieces from the museum parts of the pizzeria, and that's why it looks the way it looks, or something. The whole Freddy, or Glamlock Freddy, saying that he's been to the bottom part of the pizzeria before, but they don't explain any of that, so we can only assume that he's like Mike or someone else that's tied to Freddy. So none of that makes sense either. Doesn't explain why Freddy was the only one immune to being controlled, assuming he was even being controlled or possibly hacked. We don't understand any of that either. With Burn Trap having the ability to control animatronics because he tries to control Freddy, so we don't get an explanation of that. Why Gregory goes to Freddy in the first place and hides inside of him, or even knows to do that. We have no explanation about that. We have no explanation about Gregory being a hacker, unless you count the books, in which case somebody with a name that hints to Gregory is a hacker. There's just there's so much stuff that is not explained in Security Breach that it's almost like you should have had a whole other game just to explain that stuff first, which should have been VR and AR, but that didn't happen, especially with Vanny/Vanessa, because she got completely set up from those two games, and then they dropped the ball on her, so everything they set up to explain with her just doesn't happen. So yeah, like, Security Breach was just a giant blemish on the story, which is saying a lot, because there was already like ups and downs with the story from previous games where it wasn't like completely bad, because the whole point was to just leave us guessing a lot of the time, but Security Breach just completely like shat the bed on on being an established story. Because we're just doing a bunch of shit that makes no sense. And then I think another part of the problem is that there were a lot of story ideas that ended up getting scrapped, but like some remnants of it still exist in the games, but they're implemented in a way that just doesn't make sense either. Like with the whole Freddy turning evil thing, like that was supposed to happen, but then it doesn't. So then when they threw it into Ruined, the original version of the trailer shows the body of Freddy without the prototype label on it, because it was supposed to take place when you stop, or when Vanny has the robots destroy or take apart Freddy, and then you go and stop her and all that. So for some reason they retcon some of that, where it's no longer his body, despite the body you find being in the exact place where Freddy was taken apart. So that part doesn't make any sense. And so they like tried to retcon that, but they did it in such a poor way. They just slapped on a label that says, "Oh, prototype," and then just left it alone. I'm like, that didn't help. So yeah, I would say Security Breach, and I guess to a lesser extent, Ruined, are like the worst part of the FNAF series. The Mimic did help a lot though, in terms of story, but I still think the not the Mimic character, but the Mimic game did a lot for the story in terms of how everything was established. But the Mimic character, I still think, is like one of the worst characters to add to the series. There's just no real reason to have it there. Like, they would have to really come up with a decent story to convince me on why the Mimic is important. Because there's nobody connected to it. Everybody's dead. It's just a roaming AI. Or roaming, you know, thinking robot, I guess. I don't even know what it thinks, honestly. It's just kind of copying people or pretending to think it's somebody that it isn't. And then that's kind of it. Like, it's like, what does it do? Is it pretending to be an inventor or something and make robots? Or like, there's nothing to explain this, so I guess we'll just have to find out with the next game. Okay, good on this. Alright, think I'm gonna call it for tonight. All that's really left is a background and then what he's holding, because he's supposed to be holding underwear. And because he's supposed to be taking Emerald out to get clothes. So I'm gonna do the underwear off stream just in case. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I will stream again tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And yeah, that'll be about it. But thank you for hearing me ramble for like the last almost 2 fucking hours. But yeah, that's just how much I've thought about the FNAF series, because I still like the series. I don't have any problem with it. There's just small little nitpicks here and there that are big enough for me to bitch about. But anyway.